spoken about this before. Is this my fault? Did I let this happen to myself? I felt like a pendulum swinging between either feeling extreme anger and self-hatred to feeling nothing at all. I would sit, and instead of studying, I would sit with needles and I would put needles into my own skin. Rape does not discriminate. The shock that it created within my mind. Depression is an aggregation of circumstance. I will not allow other people to make me feel guilty. Hello, I'm Tanya Singh. I've just finished my bachelor's honors degree in industrial design from Delhi. I've never spoken about this before because it's something that I wanted to create a distance between myself and mental illness. Or when I have brought it up in conversation, it's always been something very impersonal and calculated in terms of the way that I talk, because I don't want other people to think of me different. There is a tendency to for perception to change when you know that somebody has a mental illness. It's not something that is like, I'm not hiding a broken leg. I'm not going around pretending that I'm fine, but it's what's called an invisible illness, where people cannot tell by looking at you that you have mental illnesses of whatever diagnosis. The benefit of it being an invisible illness is that there is no instant judgment, but at the same time there's also a severe lack of empathy because people cannot tell that you're struggling, that you're suffering. In pop culture with mentally ill people, especially mentally ill women, there's a very strong tendency to either vilify them or to glamorize. My reason for being here and for talking is to go against that vilification and glamorization and show that it's normal people amongst us every single day, that so many people struggle with issues like this, and that we need to normalize conversation about it. We need to be able to talk and ask for help. I'm talking about my own struggle, but like I said, I've never openly talked about this before. That's why I have cue cards. I cannot pretend to speak for everybody who has mental illness. I will not put myself on that sort of a pedestal to pretend to know about everything and about everyone. But I can speak from my struggle. I can speak from my experience of having depression, severe depression, anxiety, and ADHD. There's this funny thing, when I was preparing to speak today, I also had to figure out what is it that I wanted to talk about, and it's a bit ironic that I forgot to mention memory loss as a symptom, even though it's something that has affected me. One thing that I get very often when I first start talking about mental illness, even in an impersonal way, or if I do tell somebody, one thing that I get very often is, oh, but you don't look depressed. How am I supposed to look? What does depression look like? Do you want to see me cry? We need to normalize the fact that people have this, and you don't need to be in a very torn up state to still be dealing with this. I got my diagnosis at 17, and even though I showed signs much earlier, we as a society are not perceptive enough to actually pick up on those signs and signals. Initially, before I got my diagnosis, I used to think that this is just how I am, this is just my personality. But there's nothing wrong with me. This isn't normal for sure, but this is just how my personality is. What prompted the diagnosis was muscle spasms. I was getting spasms in my neck, my arms, and I was convinced that I had epilepsy. Somebody in the previous generation of my family did suffer from epilepsy, so I was just connecting the dots. Oh no, I have epilepsy. We need to go to a doctor. Went to a general practitioner. He said, go to a psychiatrist. I was like, no, this guy knows nothing. Why do I need to go see a psychiatrist? Went to a neurologist. After spending 45 minutes talking to him, he also said, no, you really need to go to a psychiatrist. Then I thought, okay, maybe. Went to a psychiatrist, got about a day's worth of sitting and just filling out forms, doing tests, got a bunch of assessments done. At the end, when I got the results, the psychiatrist said that they're pretty surprised that I'm still managing to function in my day-to-day life. My scores were not very typical, but it's just how it worked out for me. That's when my treatment began. I've always been a bright student in the sense that I'm there mentally, I'm there in terms of ability, but whenever it came time for exams, I performed really poorly. I remember in class 11, my economics teacher, early on in the term, my economics teacher said to me after a discussion that, Tanya, you need to participate like this more often, you need to have these sort of discussions more often so that you bring up the level of the entire class. So, but in class 12, I slept through class 12. When I wasn't asleep, I was not able to work either. I would sit, and instead of studying, I would sit with needles and I would put needles into my own skin. Before my economics board exam in class 12, I didn't sleep the entire night. I sat and shaved off the top layer of skin on my legs. I knew that I'd be wearing stockings the next day. The therapy that I go through is called cognitive behavior therapy, which is commonly known as talk therapy, plus medication and a lot of consistent effort. There are three elements to treatment: therapy, medication, and effort from the part of the patient. You have to want to get better. You cannot have a successful treatment with any one of these elements missing. So it has to be a pretty comprehensive effort. One thing that I get very often as well is, why are you depressed? You have a good life. Should I have a list? Like, should I carry around a list with me explaining these are things why I'm depressed? And by saying that you have a good life, where is this sort of insinuation of guilt coming from? Am I supposed to, I use this example often, that if my foot hurts and if somebody else has a broken knee, my foot still hurts. My pain isn't any less because somebody else has it worse. I will not allow other people to make me feel guilty for what I am going through. Nor do I owe explanations to anyone else about my struggles. I do not have to explain to others why am I going through this. Explaining the difference between sadness and depression, I would say sadness is to depression what weather is to the climate. It's the duration and intensity which matters. In my case, for me, it was not feeling sad all the time. Instead, it was just, I felt like a pendulum swinging between either feeling extreme anger and self-hatred to feeling nothing at all. When I felt nothing, I was cold. I had no regard for consequences. I had no joy. It was like I was seeing my life in black and white. But when I was angry, I was a time bomb. I was extremely self-destructive in every way imaginable. Again, no regard for consequences. But I was not bipolar. I was still just depressed. When I was angry, it was just anger or nothing. And what it slowly became was me trying to win a battle against my own mind. Some of the symptoms were hallucinations, self-harm, disruptions to my sleep pattern, my eating pattern, memory loss. This is something that not very many people know about depression, is that sometimes it's also termed as pseudo dementia, because it makes you stop being able to create new memories. You forget, like, huge chunks of my schooling are gone. But pseudo dementia, because in very many cases you can also regain those memories.